Trading the foreign exchange market carries high risk and may not be suitable for all investors. Trading on margin, utilizing leverage can carry an even higher level of risk that can lead to a complete loss of investment funds. So before deciding to trade the foreign exchange market or using any of our software alert products, you should carefully and diligently consider your personal investment objectives, level of experience, and risk tolerance. There is a possibility that you could potentially sustain significant loss. You should not invest any capital or trade that you cannot afford to lose. It is your responsibility to be aware of and understand all risks associated with foreign exchange trading and to seek professional advice from an independent certified financial advisor if you have any doubts. Auvoria Prime does not exercise trading authority over your trades. You and you alone exercise discretionary trading authority over every trade.
Right now, today is Thursday. We have lots of red folders today. It looks like we have at 7:45 some Euro news. Looks like that will be coming up in about another 15 minutes. 8:30 Euro news. All red folders. So 7:45 to 8:30, there's going to be some. I'm guessing it'll probably be relatively. If it's going to be a big news at all, it's probably going to find some very strong consolidation, very tight markets. And other than that, for the rest of the day, it's going to be pretty clear after about 8:30 this morning. So we'll keep that in mind. And right now, we're looking at the euro is the stronger of the pairs: euro Swiss, euro Swiss, euro New Zealand, euro British. So the euro, we're pretty much looking at if we're going to be trading the euro, keeping in mind that we do have that announcement, whatever those red folders. Betraying to the strength of the euro, weakness of the dollar, and looks like the weakness of the dollar and the Canadian dollar seems to be the primary focus there. So let's go to the charts and see if we have any alerts. I was looking at the FTSE. This is the UK 100. They can see in the last 15 minutes it made a pretty strong move to the downside, but again, it's still maintaining a trend. It's been a very slow trending, has some nice big spurts, but it's been basically trending coming down to a support area. And we'll take a look at that one a little bit closer as we go on here. But right now it looks like it's right in the middle of the zone and not looking to take anything there. Let's see what we have on the other front. Let's see what our charts look like here. Our dashboard, nothing on the 15-minute on the most part there, nothing on the 15-minute. And so right now it seems like it's pretty flat on 15-minute news anyway. It's a couple of 30-minute folders. Here's a US Swiss. I can tell you that was one I was looking at earlier. And right now we're looking at yeah, so we did have a bounce arrow go. So this looks like it could be, and the Swiss was strong to the dollar. So this could be a possibility of a trade here if we have 20 pips to the downside. And we have 15, 16, 17, roughly 17 pips. That's not too bad. That might be worth taking a look at here. So what I'm going to be looking at, seeing where the last pivot high, last significant pivot low. This is the low we're looking at right now. It did make some highs up here. It did test this area right in that area. And we did have, it's a little bit tight from this range to this range. It's a little bit tight for my liking. It's 46 pips, still not bad. That's close enough to use. I'm going to draw my trend lines, or my fib lines. And before I do that, I'm going to get my moving averages in there. Spin the chart a little bit. Here's our zones, right? It came right. Here's our main range. There, find our upper 25 and lower 25% of the range. Mark those. So here's a high. We'll take it over to the end of the day. Rectangle. Here's the range. Take it over to the end of the day. And mark my middle thirds. Let's see what we have here. And so let's see. Now we're going to go to a lower time frame and see what we've got. Basically, I'm looking for a pattern, looking for a bounce. There's we have two arrows coming down. Here's a bounce arrow go down to the bottom here. Right now we're down to this zone. It's bouncing off of that. And let's see here. So we're looking at what side we're on, a 5-minute chart. This is US West. Okay, I was looking at a different one here. Hang on a second. Yeah, I'm looking at, I like this to the downside. I'm looking at this right now. Here's a pullback, but it just came pulled back right off of this zone. All of our moving averages are in the right direction. Let's take a look at a 1-minute chart and see what that looks like. You're getting a nice little pullback. It just, it's right now, it's breaking back up towards the upper 25% zone. But all of our moving averages are still in the right direction. This could just be a pullback as it's range bounding. We have a little, here's the anchor, here's a hit, bring it down. We just have to penetrate the crossing of that trend line. And it's basically coming up to retest this zone right up in here. The range between here and here is, it's only 7 pips. That's not enough room to take a trade. It'd have to either be looking going back up into this upper 25% zone, and then maybe looking for it to come back down again. But right now, it's too range bound to take the trade. So we'll pass on that. But we'll keep it on the side for in case we want to take a look at that again later on. Questions? Anything anybody wants to look at while we're waiting for something to show up?
That UK 100 is really melting right now.
UK, yep, it is. Right now, I've got my zones drawn: upper 25, lower 25, middle third. So right now, it's right in the middle of this up move, which is pretty much range bound. The up move had well, if you look at this, bring it in here a little bit. Here's our pivot high, which is right where our trend line is. Had a low, so have a little. So it is making lower highs. Came back and retested the high. Now the question will be: is it going to retest this lower 25 as it breaks through here, or is it going to come back up and retest this trend line? Right now we have a low, higher lows, higher lows, higher lows. Right now it's retesting this little area right here, which is pretty much it did have the breakout of the overnight session, and it made a new high from yesterday's high, but it didn't make a high from the Tuesday's high. So right now the range is from Tuesday's high to yesterday's low, and it's ranging in between. So right now, the fact is right in a green zone. There's not much we can do with it until we see it making some stronger moves somewhere. Right now, we have this little pivot right here. We have our trend line. We can draw a trend line probably from, let's see. It's almost like we could be looking at a secondary trend here. Right now, this was a strong move down, pulled back, made a higher high. This is the pivot we're looking at. If it can break this pivot, I would expect it to come down, but look for it to retest. Now, right now, we're in the bottom half of the 61.38 range. And we have here's our low. So I'm going to be drawing a temporary trend line from this low to see where this was the first pivot, and it's breaking that. So that's the trend that it's breaking right now. Here's the anchor, here's a hit, here's the test. It broke it, but it didn't close below this little point right here. It's still above that. So this zone is still valid. We have a little bit of have to take some, try and get through that. Let's go to our 1 minute chart. Let's go 5 minute first and see what we've got. Moving averages are strong in the right direction, broke through the 200 moving average, broke through this first trend line. Looking at the other one, this is the other zone that we're looking at. But this is a fairly thick zone. This zone seems to be, that's a $20 zone right now on that, or 20 pounds, whichever unit you want to use. And it's bouncing off of that. So if we can get a retest of this trend line, it may go down further into our lower 25. So this is probably worth keeping an eye on. And then you see something else. Check some of my other factors that I check and look and see if there's anything here. It is saying to go, we're looking at some strength to the downside. It's not quite, I'm not quite ready to see it take off to the downside yet. I'd like to see a little bit more of a consolidation pullback. But right now, the fact is is breaking through these three zones. It could very well come back and test. So right now, I'm going to be looking at the Fibonacci's. Let me just take this one off. Take this trend line off. If I can. There we go. And I'm looking to see this thing, trying to measure this, the pullbacks on this. I like this pullback. It's coming up to pullback. If we can get a pullback up to the trend line, we may be looking at taking it short. And the British pound has been weak. Actually, it's getting stronger. U.S. British pound's getting stronger, which means this thing should be going down. So that would fall into play. Let's get this Fibonacci off of here. Look at our 1 minute chart. See where our moving averages are. You can see we don't have, we get a nice little pullback. I'm going to use this for the high. This one has some potential possibly. Look and see where the pullback is. It's going to pull back to this. Our pullback zone is going to be the 23 to the 50. Here's my 50, here's the 23. This is the zone we're looking at it to pull back into. I want to see the green not cross and close. I want to see, right now we have red candles coming up. And if we can get a blue candle with it, or a green candle, actually we're looking for some red candles is what we're looking for. Let me make this bigger. You can see the interior. There we go. We have green candles. And if we can get a red candle to close below and this green moving average not cross, we may be able to take a trade on this. Let's see what the range is on this. Right now the spread, we have a 2.7 spread, almost 3 spread. So it's got this one has a fairly large spread to it. That's an $8 move. $8 move, you lose $3 on the spread. I'd like to see it pull back a little bit deeper. There's our zone down below. It just popped in there. We'll see what happens. We may be able to take a little bit of something out of this. A strong push. Now it's coming up to the 61%. I'm going to move my target zone up a little bit. Looks like this thing wants to reverse. And let's see, it must be 846. Okay, this is, remember we had some news on the euro, and it looks like this is being affected by it. This is a strong move up. It's 746 right now. This last minute bar, this had to do with that news that we had, and that was with the euro. This is a British pair, but obviously it still affects the euro. Well, the euro still affects the British pound and the British markets. So right now, what do we do with this? We don't do anything with it. Right now, if we had a pullback, we'd still be looking at now the upper 25 zone, which is right up in here. So we may have to just put this one on hold for a little bit. And let's go to the next one. And let's see, how about Euro US? What was that?
We have a message from Rowan. He's just saying he's curious if gold is going to keep dropping off, or are we going to see a push up during the New York? So maybe at some point we can kind of analyze.
Oh, we can take a look at gold. I can't predict. My crystal ball is a little foggy today.
Come on.
But we can take a look at it and see what we may think it's going to do, or what our charts are telling us that what direction we should be looking at. That's really the best we can do. And let's go to a higher time frame. Right now I'm seeing lots of zones right here. 15-minute chart. Minute chart, everything's very tight back in here. What's the range on this? That's about is that $46? Let's see, 1881 to 77. That's about a $4 move. That's nothing for gold. So it is pretty range bound on a 15-minute $4 move on a 15-minute chart. That's pretty narrow. Let's go to a higher time frame and see what it looks like on that. This is probably the range we want to be looking at right now. If I look at the distance between peak to peak, that's going to be about $48. That's a good range to be trading the gold in, and that's basically taking us back to. Let's see what. Let's see. Let's draw our Fibonacci's. Strong move up. Retracement, this area was holding, nothing in between to see for any zones. So looks like this thing wants to come to the downside. We have this strong move up here. This is like it took off and never looked back, came back and retested this. This little pivot right here, this little pivot got broken. And so right now we're probably in right around the 50% of the range. So I'm going to draw my fibs. Before I do that, I'm going to get my moving averages in here. See gold on another chart here. Okay, so here's my moving averages. Obviously, it's pushing down. All the moving averages are in the correct direction, going down. So we're going to be trying to buy pullbacks. There's going to be the pullback from. I'm going to have a Fibonacci. Well, let me get my R zones in here. Get my target zones in. I'm going to go low to high.
Rowan's saying it looks like gold moves either up or down around the open of the New York. 100 more pips every day. So he keeps trying to catch that move and he can't. because you can't figure out where it's coming or when it's coming. You know what I mean?
That's always the challenge. A lot of times with gold, I find with gold is by the time you get the signals to take it, it's already past. It's hard to find. I find it hard to get the good entries on gold unless you happen to be sitting right there and watching it tick by tick. A lot of times it's just hard to find the ranges. But I would be looking at, this was let's see, today's Thursday, Wednesday, Tuesday. This is probably Friday's range. So right now it's looking to retest the Friday's range down here over on this area. It's got too much downward pressure to go long on it unless you're just trying to take contra trend trades and just build positions on the contra trend. But right now we're looking at, there's our three zones. Let's go to a 15-minute chart. We'll count the zones here. We have 1, 2, 3 red and a green. Not too much for the, so it's got a lot of downward pressure. It's right into the green zone. It's right into the lower. Here's our three-point target range. Is right in the bottom half of the target. Good to get a bounce off of that. Now the question is going to go. We did get to close below the 50% line, pulled back, and now it's heading on down. This could be the target right here. How much room do we have there? That's about a $3 move. Let's go to 1 minute chart and see if we can find something here. Gold, let's see, where do I have my gold? I'm looking at my trading view charts, see if I can find where I have gold here. There it is. There's someplace. And we'll see what we can find. See if there's anything else that will, on TradingView, that will help me out there. Expand this out. The problem with this right now is running into these green zones right now, and you don't know if it's going to push through or not. But the best thing we can do is look for the pullbacks. This is our zone that we're looking at. This would be the target that I'd be looking at here. We had moved down. This was not a real strong move, although it was. You can see it's not like a rock dropping off a cliff. It was just more of a little bit of a coin toss off the ledge. And so, but we have a little trend here, little arrows. Let's see our trend line from. Getting a little bit of a trend line going on right about in that direction. It hasn't really built. I need to expand this out a little bit more here. I would be hesitant taking it short, and I'd be hesitant taking it long. If there's a lot of upward pressure, I need a little bit. This is going to be a little bit stronger. If we can get this drop, you can see the difference between this drop and like this drop. The angle is much stronger. So I like this point right here. We had a bounce off the trend line. Now, if it can break through this zone, we may have a shot at the next target down below, which is going to be pretty much our orange line. So what I'm going to be looking at for this is here's my range. Now these ranges are pretty tight. But if it can break through this green zone, we'll be looking and see how far a pullback it could get. We may be looking at this area down here for the target. Let's see. Yes, if we can get a little bit of a pullback on this, wherever this may be. Let me see if I can expand this out a little bit. Let's see how far a pullback we can get on this one. So right now, here's the low. So I can grab that little button there. So right now, if we can get the pullback into our 23 to 50 is what we're looking at. All of our moving averages are still coming down are watching this green if it crosses the yellow. If it crosses the yellow, we have to wait until it crosses back again. This could be a nice little pullback to retest the low. And I would think that 1870 may be the
What was the last low, Al? Do you know?
What's that?
What is this approaching like a previous low?
It is. Yeah, the previous low was right around 1856 area. And this thing does like the even numbers. Let's see if I can get something in here. I'm looking at another series of indicators, stuff that I have to look at to see where this thing may go. But basically, the strong move, there was a strong move up on, that's a 3-hour chart. Never mind. Yeah, I would say that on 1870 could be a target on this one. So if this thing pulls back up to 18, I would say maybe you'll get 5 pips out of it. Possibly here's a pullback to the 38, so it could probably come down to this level right here, which is 1876 or lower. And boy, I don't like this green zone here, but it does have the downward pressure. I'd say if you're going to take it, you only be going for about a $5 move on this one. Let's see where the target would be. On this would be 1870. Well, that's right about where this zone is. It actually be a little bit below this zone. This would probably be your target zone right in this area. So this thing could, big question is if this little green zone is going to hold or not. That's where, if that zone breaks, it's you might have your pullback. I say it may be worth taking a shot, but just keep in mind that it has to get through this. And let's see here. Yeah, I like it to the downside. I would say this would be possible to take a short. I'm not going to, but there it goes. Yeah, I think it's a short move on this. I always will be looking at this as a target. The 1873.50 area would probably be your target.
Yeah, just obliterated that zone.
Yeah, I thought it might. I just don't like trading gold. I don't want to mess up my performance for the week. So I'm staying away from it. I'm only taking really, it's nice little trade. And I would say right now I'd be looking at a bounce off of this area. It pulled back from here to here, pulled back to right around the 38. So your 38 zone on the, well, it's already blown through all that. Let's see if we get a bounce over on this.
Just be careful, Rowan. Gold has a tendency to all of a sudden stop its descent and turn around and go the other way really quick.
We're on a 1-minute chart. It's coming into a target zone. Like I said, this is the, if we look at the range between, let's make sure we got the right ranges here. That's 550, and from here to here, it's 5. So this is the range target right here where it's bouncing off. This is these ranges. This is our target zone right here. Not this bottom one, but the top one.
And it's hit.
It hit it. Now, if this candle can close down below, you still might be able to go a little bit lower. But right now, if it does not close above this orange line, I like to see a 5-minute close, not a 1 minute. I'm on a 5-minute chart now. And right now we have, how much time do we have here? On a 5-minute chart, we have, for my clock.
Wow, look at this move, huh?
I just moved down. Yep. We're at 18. I'm going to say 1871. That level is a basically it's a 3-hour level. It's a level off a 3-hour chart.
Yeah.
Let me show you where. If I go to a 3-hour chart.
Keep in mind, guys.
Basically, it's looking at this. It's looking at this little wick right in here is where it's looking at right now. Off of this big green candle, there's the wick, and the wick is right about, and this is the wick right there. I'm gonna take all this other stuff off of this, if I can. I'm gonna take this one off as well, so you can see a little bit better what I'm talking about here. There we go. That's what I'm trying to do. Expand this out. This is that wick I'm talking about right over in here. This is a 5-minute wick. That's the wick. That's the wick that said, okay, here's my target zones. Came back down. I'm on the 5-minute chart now. And you can see that, I'm not sure how much time we have. We have about 1 more minute left. And you can see this candle so far has not closed below this line, which makes me, gives me pause to think that this one's being, this zone off that 4-hour chart, which is the wick, it's just saying, okay, we're going to come back and retrace. But this was a nice little move down to that. How much was that? That was where it broke. And we're looking at, that was basically a $5 move. And the level that it is right here at the 1872.40 area. I was saying no more than 1870 was what the ultimate target would have been. This was still a pretty good target. So hopefully you made some money on that, Rowan.
Rowan grabbed 27 pips, he says.
All right, good for you. Good job.
Yeah, that was a nice move.
If it wasn't gold, I would have taken that trade. I just don't like trading gold.
And it doesn't always move like that. Like
no,
that was awesome move.
That was a good one. That was a good one. So, in my mind, I'm looking at that.
Ooh, Danielle made 50 pips.
Oh, right.
Good for you.
All right. That's what I like to hear. Oh, nothing on the 15-minute. Everything's really tight on the 5. Let's see over here. Let's check out our German 30. That's one
One
of
of
my
our
favorite
favorites.
ones. One of my favorites. Yep. And you can see it's still in the range. Here's my range from yesterday. It hasn't changed any. Let's see, that's at 15, 7, 26, 35. I'm going to slide these over.
Looney says it's Vancouver, so Rowan needs it to make rent. Vancouver's notoriously high living expenses there. Funny.
I got to mark get my, actually maybe do it this way. Parameters, there we go. 15, 7, 6, 15, 7, 6, 2, 5, I think is what I was looking at. 15, 7, 6, 2, 5. Let's see if that works. Nope, that's not right. All right, well, we're just going to have to go with what we eyeball it here. It's not that critical right now. We'll just take it off since it's not right. So we're basically looking at the bottom one here. So I'm going to bring this one over. This is the zone we're looking at on the German 30. Still have our main higher time frame targets in here. I guess some of these other charts that we use all the time got to get in a different chart system on my trading view so I can grab it a little bit earlier than faster. All right, so I'm on a 5-minute chart. We have our zones. Nothing to get overly excited about with this gold German 30. See what we got. We have, looks like we're maybe looking at a
I don't like it.
Yeah, I'm not liking this thing too either.
All the moving averages are all jumbled together, or it looks like a big braid.
Yeah, it's consolidating right in here. You do want to kind of stay away from that. You want to have things as much in your favor as you possibly can, and that just takes patience sometimes to wait for that to happen. But right now we're in. It came out. This is our money zone. This is our zone that we look to see for our targets. It came down here, went up. It came back, rejected it. So right now it's sort of living in between this range and this range, which at this point is, what is it? What's the range on that? About $77, I guess. 15. Oh, let's see, what is that? We're at 15,605, and the bottom of this is, yeah, it's about $77. So right now it's in the middle of everything. Right now it's going sideways. You can see it's just not doing anything. We're getting consolidation before it's either going to break to the upside or break to the downside. But if you draw your fibs on this little range here, I mean, we're on a 1-minute chart, but this is basically where it's playing right now. It's playing in this range right in here. And you can see that here's the upper 25, here's the lower 25. And this works on the lower time frames too, just that you don't have the punch that you would get. You still want to make sure you have enough room in between here and here. And that's about $12 move, which isn't too bad. Depends how much you're going for. This is a strong move down. Here's a little bit of a flag pattern here. Take this right on across. And then we have another little bottom coming up from the bottom, little wedge coming up from the bottom. This is a wedge right in the middle of everything right now. So right now you don't really know which way it's going to go. Now we did say we had some news at 8:30, so I would say this thing's getting very close to. It's going to make some sort of a breakout, and we'll watch our clock a little bit. We got another about another 19 minutes before 8:30 comes. This thing may start making a bit of a move. But this was a strong move down. Here's a little basing coming in, and we'll see our moving averages are starting to break apart, and we may have a possibility of, if it does break, we could be looking to break to the upside, and that would be a $15 move. That could be a nice little move to the upside here. But right now, here's the close, and it does not have a close above this little point right here, nor down below here. So we're going to look at this a little bit more. Like I said, we've got news coming out, so this thing could get whipsawed doing this. So be very careful with that. How lucky do you feel? We don't want to be trading on luck. We want to trade on confidence. I don't know if there's any other alerts coming in. All 1 minute charts. Nothing major here.
No, I haven't seen any on the regular arrow either.
This is not a bad time of the day to be trading the German and the FTSE, the UK 100, which is the FTSE. The spread, the only thing I don't like about the UK 100 is got really big spreads. The German 30, the spreads are much more reasonable. This looks like it wants to push a little bit to the upside. It's got all the makings of it.
It's funny when I'm looking through all the indices, and they all have the exact same formation. Doesn't matter if they're NASDAQ, S&P, German 30, they all look the same.
When I get a wedge right in the middle of a run like this, you really just don't know which way it's going to go. There's a lot of selling pressure. The price came all the way up here, drove right back down again, came up. And so you see this huge wick right here. I say if it does break to the upside, you're going to be looking at probably a little bit of a pullback right around in this 15, looks like 588 area. And we're looking at about 16. That's a $14 move. So I mean, if it does break it, but it could also just break up, get you in, and then whipsaw you, and then tank right down below. But right now, here's your. Let's see if we get an up arrow. If we get an up arrow, we may be able to take a little shot at this. But here's where the zone was created. It came down. Now, if we had an arrow off of this candle, I'd be a lot happier with it. But if you do take it long, you have to be, your stop's going to have to be down here at 15.5, call it 49. We get a break about this. This would be a 27. You need to be looking at $27 stop for a probably $11 target, or at least the stop would have to be below this trend line right in here. I favor it to the upside. The euro is starting to get a little bit weaker than where it was earlier today. But I'm just going to sit and I'll watch this one. I'm not going to trade this one. I'll watch it. But right now it looks like it's favoring to the upside. And even if it does break through this wick, you have just a little bit of a wick here, and then you have another. So you have a lot of selling pressure in this whole area right in here. And it pulled back into the 61 area. Let's get on a 5-minute chart and see if there was a break on that. We have that 200 moving average sitting right here. It could have a little bit of a problem getting through that. I try not to trade the news if I can avoid it. Sometimes I forget that it's there, but right now we're looking at another 13 minutes. By that time, this move, you can see, is already starting to make its move. All of our moving averages are in the correct direction. And we're showing strength on all time frames. I really just don't like this formation. This is like a rocket ship up, came back down, found some stability, and now it just doesn't really. I like to see it either come up here to the extreme or down here to the extreme before I would take a trade. Right now, it's just too much of a gamble in the middle for my liking. But we'll keep an eye on it until we have something else to look at.
Well, I've got a question for you that I'm not quite sure how to answer.
Okay.
Okay. We have a question in the chat from Pretelm. This is my first time logging in to this, I guess, our session. So he's trying to keep up with the different lines and the purposes of the lines. Basically, they're asking what type of strategy is this? So
the strategy is basically based on Fibonacci, on standard Fibonacci's price Fibonacci numbers. The Fibonacci numbers that I'm using, primarily we're looking at the 23.6, which is a Fibonacci number, the 76.4, which is a Fibonacci number, and I mark that as being the upper 20. And what I'm doing is I'm finding the strong move up where the pivot high, pivot low, and find out where the price is in between that. I want to see a certain range. I like to see at least in the Forex, I like to see at least a 50 pip range. In the German 30, the index is anywhere between, I'd like to see like a $50 range, depending on what index we're looking at. But these are Fibonacci numbers, 23.6, 76.4. And I draw the full range and I take the upper 25%, which is basically the upper 23.6, and the lower 25%, which is the lower range. I draw that range, and then I find the 38.2, which is a Fibonacci number. 50 is a Fibonacci. That's pretty much the middle of everything. And then the 61.8. And those are my target zones. And I do that on the higher time frame. That's where, and I draw that with these orange lines are the Fibonacci ranges on a higher time frame. And you'll see there's 3 of them. And so if you see, here you go. This is the 38.2 on the higher time frame. Here's the 50% on the lower on the middle time frame, and then here's the 61.8. These are all on a higher time frame. Then I go to a lower time frame chart, and I look to see where the pullback is, and looking for its trending inside this range. And then these are my target zones. Because basically the theory that we're using is that from a higher time frame, price is always going sideways, but inside that sideways range on a lower time frame, you'll see a trending. So I find out the range where it's going sideways, and I try and find the trends inside those ranges where it starts trending for the target zones, which is these orange lines. And that's pretty much the reason and the theory behind it. I do have a couple other Fibonacci numbers here, which is like the 11.8, which is basically the halfway point between the 0 and the 23.6. And I have the 88.2, which is the halfway point between the 76.4 and the 100. But these blue shaded areas are actually the higher time frame upper 25 and lower 25% zones. So if I get into like a 5-minute chart here, you'll see where I should have, well, I took the shaded area off of this. Let's see if I can just redraw it again. Let's see, this was the, okay, I'll just redraw this whole thing right again. I'm going to start with my clean chart. Since we have time to do this. Okay, here's my clean chart. This is the range I'm looking at. Here's the pivot high, here's a pivot low, and here's the price in between. So I'm going to draw my higher time frame Fibonacci lines. Same values, I've just drawn it with a different time frame. And that's my range. Here's my pivot high, here's my pivot low. We have nice zones in between, and this is kind of a clean shot in between. So right now, from this point to this point, I'm going to draw the upper 25%, which is from, here's the high, here's my 23.6. I'm going to draw it right to there. That's my upper 25%. Draw another one down from the low to the 76.4. That's the lower 25%. And now I'm going to draw my orange lines at the 38.2, at the 50, and at the 61. These are my target zones. So now I've got my higher time frame all set, and now I'm going to remove this Fibonacci, but I'm going to keep the lines in the zones that I just drew. I'm going to remove that, the Fibonacci lines, and I'm going to redraw it again. I'm going to do it on a lower time frame. So this is my higher time frame. I usually start with at least a 15-minute. If I can't find a 15-minute, I just pretty much go higher as I need to. I'm looking for a green zone and red zone with nothing in between, except maybe over here where the price has been hanging out. Come to a lower time frame chart. These are my zones, and now you can see where now it's starting to trend. I'm looking for the strong move up, a pullback, and now I'm looking to see. I'm going to be looking to see off of what the strength of in this case it's the German 30. So I'm going to be looking to see what the strength of the euro is. So if I look at this chart, this is where it's showing how strong my euro is, and it's not overly on the lower. This is 1 hour chart, 30-minute, 15, and 5. On the higher time frame, which I'm looking at the 30 and the 15, you'll see the euro is in the upper third of the 30-minute chart. It's losing a little bit of ground right in here, but right now I'd be trading to the relative strength of the euro. If the euro is strong, more than likely the German 30 is going to be weaker. If the euro is weak, the German 30 tends to get stronger. It's just opposite. So, but right now it's kind of range bound in here. It went all the way up to this. This is what I call the area where you want to get in down here. You want to try to get in, and as it trends through these orange zones, that's where you're trying to get the profits. And so right now, had a strong move up. We had a pullback. We have a little trend line coming down below. And what's our time? And we have 4 more minutes before the move here, before the announcement. So we have a trend line here. Now I like this pullback here. Strong move up, strong pullback. I'm going to be looking at this as being like a wave 1, wave 2 on an Elliott wave. And then I'm looking for a possibility of a higher where it's going to break. These areas are going to get broken until it gets up to this upper blue zone. So right now I kind of like this to the upside. And so I'm going to draw a Fibonacci from here to here, looking for the pullback. And then I'm looking for the moving averages to confirm the direction. Right now they're consolidating right in here. So there's really no clear direction on that. Here's an anchor. Here's a hit. We're going to see if this thing pulls back. And if it goes up, we should get a trend line. Here's a low. Here's a higher low. Here's a high. I'm looking for a lower high to come back down to retest this. But we don't know where that high is because we haven't got the pullback and the rejection yet. So I'm just going to mark this as we really don't know where it's going to be. I could take it to this little pivot here, and that may be valid. And that's the last pivot low right there. This is the point where this trend came back up, it got rejected. Now it's coming back up, but this little area right here is still holding. There's a nice little wick in there. So it's got some sellers came in here. We have some more sellers up in here. So we don't know exactly how high this thing's going to go. So right now it's kind of range bound. But I'm going to move this thing up because I'm expecting this thing to come up, not break this and form another high, and then come in and pull back again. So right now it's range bound between this zone and this zone. And the range between here is basically, looks like about $69. So that's not a bad range for it. If we're only trying to get a few dollars move out of it. But right now it's we're waiting for everything to move in the right direction. Right now it's still kind of weak. It's below the 200 moving average. And I'm looking at these moving averages to see what it does with this. I'm going to go to a 1 minute chart because we're looking at very tight stops. If we have a tight stop, we can take a larger lot size and get the same profit as you would as if you had a larger stop with the same risk level. So, but right now there's really no real clear direction because of this strong move up like this over such a short period of time. In this 1 minute time frame, let me get, where's my cursor?
1 minute till news.
1 minute till news. From here to here, it was in 9 minutes. It went almost $80 in 9 minutes. I don't know what you do with that, other than the fact if you get lucky. If you're not lucky, you get your clock cleaned. So right now, this is such a strong move. This seems to be kind of news based. This was probably right around the 7:30 area. Yeah, this was right around 7:30 this morning where we had a red folder news. We could very well get the same type of move off of this 8:30 move. So I'm staying out of this until we get, now if it comes down to this area and gives me a reason to get back in, then this upper trend line would be my target. Hopefully that explains what we're doing here.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, good.
And there we go.
Here's the news.
Yeah.
See, we were kind of looking at thinking it was going to go up, but now the news happened. Look what's happened right now. It's driving right back down. Look at that wick right there. I don't know. I'm on a 1 minute chart. How do you trade this? This little move right here in about 2 seconds was about $27 move. We'll see if it comes down into this shaded area. This is the lower 25%. We'll see what it does with this.
Wow.
And then after the news, then I'll probably let it go for about at least another 30 minutes before I try and let it stabilize for about 30 minutes or an hour, and then see where it goes. We do have a down arrow, but there's no zone that bounced off of, so. But I would expect to come down here. It's probably, and there's a good chance it could bounce off of this trend line right in here. It's not coming down into the lower 25%. Now, if it comes back down here and bounces and pulls back again, then I'm going to be looking at a move for a bounce coming on up, maybe even coming up to this area. And then I'd be looking for it to retrace back into somewhere around maybe a 76 or somewhere between a 61 or a 78% retracement of this move. I'll just draw this out what I'm looking at. So let's just say let's just for example, let's say it bounces off of that and it comes up to here and closes. And it pulls back. Here's my 78%. I would have a zone between 61 and then the 78. So I'd have a zone right in here. So I'm just drawing this out with just saying if this picture comes to play, I can take the trade. If it doesn't, then I have to reassess what the picture has given me, and then I make adjustments that way. So right now I'm expecting, so now wherever this thing bounces up, I'm going to be looking at a retracement. Oh, let me do a chart here. There's my rectangle. So I'm looking for a 61% to 88 or 70, well, even the 88, that's oftentimes good. So if it pulls back, comes up there, makes a high, and pulls back into this zone. Now this thing comes up. So right now we have our low. Let me just, where's my Fibonacci? All right, let's see here. It's just hard to grab these things on TradingView or on MT4. Let's get rid of there. Okay, so here's a pullback into the zone. Now we're starting to get a pullback. So let me draw that. Here's our bounce. Now we don't know where this thing's going to end up. I'm just going to project maybe up to around this area. So here's a bounce. Now we don't know, again, we don't know where it's going to end up. This is still all part of the announcement. And we're only looking at 1, 2, 3, about 4 minutes into the aftermath of the announcement. Now I do like the fact that it came down. This was a nice pullback from this move. Strong move up, pulled back. I'd venture to say this pullback here was probably within that 61 to 78% retracement. Let me see if I can do that. Let's say this came on up to here. Let's say it came down to this area right here. And here's my 61. This was the zone I'd be looking out on the pullback. I don't want this pivot to get broken. And you can see that here's 61. It pulled back to between the 76 and the 88.2 retracement. Here's the pivot. This is it. So this is the trend line that I'm looking at for that pullback. Here's my trend. Now I'm looking to see this thing maybe start to trend. It comes on up. Now it's in this zone right here. I'd like to see it close. And maybe one more pullback. This time if it pulls back, I'd like to see it pull back. Now I'm looking at this. This is our strong move up. Now I'm looking for a retracement off of this move. So I'm just going to move this thing down here. I'm going to move this one up here. And now I'm looking for it to start trending and pulling back. Here's the high. I'm looking for the pullback to come back into anywhere between 23.6 and the 50 is my starting point on this move. Strong move up, see a pullback. If it pulls back into this zone, I can take it, and if there's enough room to the trend line, I can take the trade. Here's the high, here's a pivot high. We don't need this anymore. Now I'm seeing where it's pulling back. Right now it pulled back 23. It's coming into the 50%. The euro's getting weaker. We do have a zone right here, so this would be my first target. The red zone would be my first target if I get into this trade. We have a bounce. There's an arrow. Here's a pullback. And I'm going to do a buy stop here at the 11%. So right now it's pulling back. If it pulls back too much, I'll take that off. If it only pulls back to the 38, which is a nice little number, and it pulls up, gets me in the trade and takes me on up. Here's my target would be right up in this area, somewhere around the 15,596. And so my target would be modify target 15,596. So if I get into this trade, here's my target. Now, if you got into this trade before the announcement, you were thinking it was going to go long, you just got stopped out. They took everybody's stops out who was thinking it was going long. And now they took their stops. Now they're going to come back in. Now, right where you would have gotten in, you're going to get in and try and take it to the profit. And you can maybe go on up to the Auvoria moving averages. I've now crossed in the right direction. We have the green on top of the yellow on top of the blue. And it's now got to close above this 200, which is moving flat across. Now I'm in the trade. Now I can put my stop a lot tighter than where I can put my stop down here. I probably give it below the 61%. It only pulled back 38. I can put my stop down here about the 15,560 area. Modify that. And we'll go 15,560, 15,564. I can adjust it. There's my stop. I'm in the trade. And here's my target. I'm only going for a few dollars on this, but I can take a larger lot size. I'm going for about $13. But because I have such a tight stop, I can take a larger lot size. If I had a 100 pip stop, I would have to probably have this all the way back down to probably 8.01 or something of that nature. And the other thing you can do is, I would expect there's going to be a bounce off of that. But as long as it maintains above this blue moving average, we could probably still stay in this trade. There's my target. I'm in and out of the trade. It's trying to come up against this trend line. We'll see if it bounces. If it bounces back, now we can take this thing, this trend line, or my Fibonacci line, if I can get it to work. There we go. Now, wherever this high is, wherever the high comes in, I'm looking for a retracement. And I just got my daily bread. Now we're going to see where it's going to pull back. There's a high. It bounced right off that moving average. I usually get in, try and get out a little bit before those targets because I want to get the spread taken care of. Now we have a pullback. Now I'm looking at the 23 to 50% line. So I'm gonna move this thing up. There's a 23. Bring it back to the 50. There's my 23 right in there. There's my 50. If it comes back into right now, so here's a rally, base, rally. Now it's coming back in to retest this little zone, which is right here with this 23 to 50% range. Comes back in to retest it, moving averages, comes back in. It pulls back. As long as the green stays above the yellow on the pullback and gives me, right now I'm going to get some red candles. As soon as it pulls back, gives me a green candle after the pullback, and this may just keep on going up here right now. But it did pull back just to the 23. I'd like to see at least wick into this area. It didn't even wick into it.
That's a good trade, Al.
Thank you. Let's see how, right now we got the close above this target zone. It held short of this one. Now it's pulling back. Now, right now we're looking at it heading up to this range, to this one. So right now it's in between. We have 3 targets. And you can take this thing to the upside. I'm looking at these orange lines. Let's just see that one just popping through the top here. So these are our 3 targets. It just crossed through the one, closed above, it's pulling back. Now, if it can pull back to this orange line and maybe wick down and not close below, and then come back up and give us a green bar, then we can maybe start looking at this as being the next run. And you can see, depending on how far this thing pulls back, right now it's pulled back to the 23. I would say the target on this thing is going to be, it's got to get through this red zone, but the target is going to be up right around, if you're still into this trade, want to keep on going for more pips. Like I said, I'm in, I'm out, I'm ready to look for the next trade. But up here is here's my 38 to 50. And in fact, this thing only came down to the 23. I'm going to move this thing down halfway through. And this would be my next target zone right in there. Still a little bit short of the orange line, but if this thing pulls up and still gives me all the moving averages stay the same. Right now we're seeing the green is still above the yellow. I'm on a 1 minute chart. We're getting a little bit of a pullback. And we'd probably be looking at pullback to around let's see the moving average on this one. Let's see how far this thing pulls back. The more this thing pulls back, the more it's like a slingshot. The stronger you pull the bow back, the stronger the next move to the upside is. So if this thing pulls back to the 38, then we can be looking at this area up here. If it pulls back to the 50, I can be looking at this area up here for a target. But usually I'll still bring it back. Whatever the target is, I always bring it back at least half that zone because I want to make room for the wick, or the spread rather. Here's a strong, nice little pullback. We have the greens coming down. It hasn't crossed the yellow yet. It's coming up, retesting our arrow moving average, which is the blue one. It's retesting our zone. This is our target zone. Came back, closed above, pulled back, went up towards the next one. This one didn't even wick up to here, so this thing could be turning around. This could be a stronger retracement. But now with this move right here, here's our lower 25% of the move. If it gets into this area, we need to reassess. And there's our zone. That just popped up. right here in this lower, here's the lower 25%. It's still in the middle. But if it breaks all the way down here to below the 60, this may just give us another lower high or higher low. In other words, we could be projecting the trend line from here on another wave to wherever the price is. And the price down here to the 61%, see if it bounces off of that. That would form another little, there's an anchor that would, but right now we're looking for the second hit off of this trend line. We don't know where that's going to be, but right now I'm looking at I'm projecting somewhere around the 61%, maybe even the 50% retrace. Right now the 50% line's holding. Here's our pullback. Right into the near the 50% line. Now, if it breaks above the 23 with the green, we have more room to the upside. Do we have enough room to take another trade on this? To that one, that's $21. Could be a nice little move. I could do another buy stop on here. Now, if it comes up, takes me in. Now, it could come up and check this one. We had a nice little pullback, a pullback to the 38. My target up here is the extension. Up here to 38. 38 to the 50 area. And I'm going to move it down to, so right now, I'd be looking at this being pretty much my target. It's about ready to get me into the trade. Push to the upside. This would be my target. I really like this line here as my target if I do get into this. The euro is still hanging in there. It's still a little bit stronger than I would like it to be.
Great job. Patrick made 140 pips on that German setup, Al.
All right.
And made some money as well. Awesome. Looks like people did well on it.
The fact that this thing's stalling right in here, I think I'm just going to pull this because I don't want to press my luck on this. If I can delete it in time.
Yeah, I'm with you.
It still may go on the upside. Right now I would be in that trade. I just pulled the trade. But you see, this zone is holding. Now the big question is this going to make a new high? Which it did bounce off of this trend line. Here's our target. So I could see where this thing could bounce off of that and hit this target right up in here. Because this is really the first wave. Pullback could be another wave. This could actually be the really big wave right here coming up, which might take it out of this one, and then this is the next target. You see, this is our target zones. And we're just trying to play this as it goes up, pulls back, pulls up, gets it, pulls back, pulls up, tests it. And right now, here's our new trend line. Every time it pulls back, I'm just going to keep the cross of this trend line. Right now, we don't really know. Well, this was the last rejected. You see where now we have a new trend line. This was our rejection of this point, which is right here, this orange line. There's my anchor. Here's my hit. Now we're going to look and see it. Now, if this trend line gets broken, now we're looking at coming back down to this area. It's having taken a little bit of heat in here. It's having a hard time getting past this. So if this gets rejected, come on down, retest the trend line, and come on down. So I would be looking at a move. Also, if this area gets rejected, coming back down, breaking this trend, coming back up, retesting it, and then moving down to this area right in here. How are we doing on time? We're about 9 more minutes. And we have a couple other trades popping up here. So as far as I'm concerned, this one's kind of done. You guys, if you're in it, you can watch this trend line, watch this one. If it breaks down below, you may want to be getting out and then looking at it coming down to this area to retest. And then you're going to be making another lower high, another higher low. So let's look at some of these others real quick before we go. EuroCAD, let's take a look at that one. And do a quick analysis on it, 15-minute chart. And there's a 15-minute chart looking for the pivot low, pivot high, with nothing in between. And so right now, this is the range. What kind of range do we have from here to here? Come on, where's my markers? There it is. From there to there. That's a 35 pip range. That's a little bit tight, tighter than I like. I like this one a little bit better. Here's a strong move up, pull back, strong move up, retested this and made a little bit of a higher high. The fact that this high went a little bit higher than this one, and this area is now being broken. This point right here, you can see where it's right retesting this. So this was valid, made a new high, and I'll just use this one. It's a little bit tighter than I like. I like seeing 50, but I'll go with the fact that it's bouncing off of that. I'll go with this one. Now, if this gets rejected, then we're going to have to go down, pull this back down. I think I still like this lower one better. And the reason for that is this area is holding, so we recognize that that's holding. That's right here at these 3 lines. Here's our 3 target zones right here. There's target 1. There's target 2. There's target 3. And just keep doing the same thing over and over again. Here's my lower 25. Here's my upper 25, using this little pivot right up here. Here's my upper 25. So what I've done, I've just established my sideways range, sideways being in between the blue lines. And now I'm looking to see where it's trending. Now you can see that here's a nice big move up. Here's a pullback. This area held. So right now we have a trend line from here to here. Here's our high. There was a retest of the high right there. So here's my anchor. Here's my first hit, looking for a third hit. Here's our trend line. Here's my anchor. Here's my first hit. But now this is where it can get a little bit interesting. Here's my first hit. But this area was, so this was a higher low. If I come over here, this was a higher low. Okay, this little wick right here. Now, if I look at this pivot here and this pivot, there's a low, higher low, higher low. This pivot got broken here, but it was still kind of rejected. So I'm going to use this one for my wedge, and I just see where it broke, came back up, and validated it. But now we have this little zone right here where this little zone is holding. So technically speaking, we had one break. Because this was the first hit. Came up, we had a break, retest, and validate it. Now here's a break, retest. So right now I'm looking at this thing going down. We have a down arrow. We have a bounce, didn't quite hit the bounce, but came close. Have a down arrow, and now we're looking at maybe coming down into this lower 25%. I'm going to go to the 1 minute chart and I'm looking for trades. I'm looking for trends. Here's a strong move down. Here's a pullback. There was a bounce point right here. Pull back to the 61%, looking for a target down here around the 61%. Just because we have the target doesn't mean we can get into the trade. But this would be the target zone inside this lower 25. And we're going to look and see where the strength of the euro CAD is. If I look in the euro and the CAD, I'm looking for the strength to the Canadian dollar strong to the euro, Canadian dollar strong to the euro. I'd like to see a little more of a spread there. Canadian dollar, there's a 6, the euro is a 3. I've got a 3-point spread favoring the Canadian dollar, looking for strength to the downside. We had the pullback. Now we have a little bit of a wedge right here. There's a low, now if we can get a close below this trend line, then we can be looking at this for a target. Have a green bar. I'm gonna see a green, strong red, drop. Here's the base. We can maybe take this thing short if we get the, let's see, get my little chart up here. Euro CAD, looking for strength to the CAD, and I'm going to do a buy stop or sell stop here at the 0 line, because if it breaks the 0 line, be a sell stop. See if it drives into the trade. Here's my target, looking for a 7 pip target, 15 pip stop. Modify the trade. And I got in at 20, so I'm looking at 47.13. And modify. We're not in the trade yet. Well, where do we get in? Here's my target. Here's my target zone. Here's my target. I'm not in the trade yet. This point got rejected. Coming back up, retesting the trend line. Canadian dollar is still strong to the euro, still favoring the downside. Retesting the trend line. And euro CAD, let's see what that looks like here. I'm actually favoring this a little bit to the long side. I'm not real excited about this one. This one gets up to the blue line. If it crosses over this blue line and closes, I'll pull this trade. Right now, it's still following this trend to the downside. Actually, this could be a nice little down move, actually. I retested the wedge. And it's about ready to get me into the trade. It's right at the hours, right at 9 o'clock hour. So we're going to be looking at the next. This is going to be the opening of this. This is the open of the new candle, the new 1 hour candle. One little push down, it could just push me right in and get me right out of the trade. And if not, my stop is going to be, I can put my stop above this blue moving average. Probably put it right around the stop around 47.33. if I get into the trade. Let's see, here's 47. $33. I'll buy it. So I have my stop set. If I get into the trade, my stop is going to be up here, above this moving average. And we'll see if we get a push down. We have a trend line. Here's a high, lower high, lower high. Starting to, looks like it might be starting to gain a little bit of momentum. And you see my stop is above this trend line. It's above this moving average, above the trend line. And I'm about ready to get into this trade if it pushes one. If it makes the push, it breaks it, it's going to break it, probably break pretty hard. If it doesn't break it, then I could have this little pivot still holding. And right now we still see a lot of weakness to the downside. And it looks like our time is pretty much up. I don't know if anybody's running the 9 o'clock to 12 o'clock session, but we're going to be wrapping this thing up. Keep an eye on this. If you're in this, keep an eye on this moving average. If it closes above this and breaks and closes, then you may look for another possibility of another trend line. And looking at to the upside. And so right now, as it's coming back up, I'm going to pull this trade because I really don't know if it's going to come back down. I'm going to pull this trade. It had 2 chances to break it, never did, so I'm going to delete it. And with that note, we're going to call it a day here. Again, thanks everybody for coming in. Hope you learned something. Hope you made some money. And we'll be here again tomorrow, 7:30 to 9. See you then.
Thanks, everybody. See you all tomorrow. Have a great rest of your day.